Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, Saka here, and welcome to Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition for absolute beginners. This series is designed for the brand new player who has never played Dungeons & Dragons before and wants to get involved. D&D is a tabletop role-playing game in which a group of friends get together to live out a story that's constructed by the Dungeon Master or DM, sometimes referred to also as the Game Master or GM. The Dungeon Master presents a story to the players, and the players react as their characters would. Do they actually go on the quests, or do they get into a little bit of trouble in town? It's completely up to the party.
Okay, we march over to the Del Rosas, boot the door off the... No, wait, we should probably be nicer this time, shouldn't we? I bang on the door and I go, for God's sake, chairs!
You what?
D&D usually consists of 3 separate stages: the interaction stage, the exploration stage, and the combat stage. If you've played other RPGs such as Fallout or Skyrim, you already know how this game loop works. You find an NPC quest giver, they give you the quest, or perhaps a location or a direction ahead, and then you as the player have complete freedom to go do that or not. Except in this game, every character that is not a player character is voiced and controlled by the Dungeon Master.
Well, hello. I am literally everybody else in the world.
This includes the wide array of monsters that the Dungeon Master has at their disposal, but usually it's not an adversarial relationship. That being said, unlike a video game that is made to be balanced towards the player and skill level, sometimes the Dungeon Master overreaches and puts too many creatures in a dungeon, or makes it too simple, or too weak of a boss. But that just plays into the story. But as with any game, the most important thing is to have fun. The Dungeon Master will come up with interesting things to do, and the players will come up with interesting ways to solve those problems. But unlike a video game that has an end credit screen, Dungeons & Dragons doesn't have to end. It can last weeks, months, or even years if you have a dedicated group. A skilled Dungeon Master can make a story arc last for a very long time, and players who have built their character from scratch watch them grow over the period of the game to maximum level. So as far as campaigns go, when one door closes, another door opens. If your character maxes out and retires, you can just start a new one with a brand new campaign and setting. The game never has to end. D&D offers the chance for players to be very dynamic. Does running into a crypt and smashing a skeleton with your mace sound intriguing? How about sneaking in the shadows in light armor and picking them off with your light bow? Or how about being a master of speechcraft and talking down barkeeps and blacksmiths to get the best deal? No matter your playstyle, there's probably something in the player's handbook for you. There's a varied number of classes and races you can choose from, as well as backgrounds to define where your character came from. If you're intrigued and want to get into it, then this video series is for you. The first thing we're going to talk about is what do you need to start as a player. The Dungeon Master has their own requirements, so I'm just going to focus on the players for now. It's much easier to start as a player than a Dungeon Master for sure. D&D has a relatively low cost for entry considering the amount of hours you can get out of it. The first thing you'll need is a pencil and a character sheet. Character sheets are produced by Wizards of the Coast and they have a nice look to them. Everything is organized in a way that makes sense for most players. If you can't print one off, nothing stops you from making your own character sheet in your notebook, however. I would recommend using a character sheet though, because if you're looking for a skill, one of your fellow players can point it out to you much faster than trying to find it on your own custom-made character sheet. But once you have a few games under your belt, feel free to make your own character sheet with the most important information that you need front and center. Knowing what is most important just comes with practice and you'll get it eventually. The next thing that you need is absolutely essential: dice. D&D runs on what's called the D20 system, in which a 20-sided dice is rolled to determine the outcome of most things that have a chance of failure. This can range from everything like being able to hide, climbing a rope, jumping a pit, convincing a guard to let you go. All of those things are determined by a D20 roll, plus your modifiers that is specific to your character. Apart from the almighty 20-sided dice, you'll need a 12-sided dice, a 10-sided dice, an 8-sided dice, a 6-sided dice, that's your casino dice, and a 4-sided dice. And the last thing that's a must for any player who wants to custom build their character, the D&D Player's Handbook. Inside, you'll find all the information about races, classes, backgrounds, spells, skills, weapons, armor, equipment, and everything that you will need to know rules-wise. If you're playing with a group of experienced players, knowing the rules isn't that important because they can help you along the way. But if there's something that you have a question on, the Player's Handbook is the place to go. So if you show up to your first game with a pencil, your filled out character sheet, your notebook, your dice, and your Player's Handbook, then you're all set and ready to play. One recommendation I can make is if you're not exactly sure if you want to get into this hardcore, you can buy the starter kit, which comes with a set of dice if you don't have any already, pre-generated character sheets in which you don't have to make your own character, and a small adventure to sort of teach you the rules and walk you through what a game session would look like. It's a pretty good litmus test on if it's something that you can get excited about. But as a player, nothing stops you from buying the Monster Manual and the Dungeon Master's Guide as well. For a player to know what monsters they may face, or understand what struggles the Dungeon Master is going through, it helps make for a better game if your players have at least a cursory knowledge of what's going on behind the scenes. Downtime is the killer of all good campaigns.
I'd like to Tasha's lap Heather.
It's not your turn. It's not your turn.
What just happened to this game?
She's too
Are
violent.
you guys all on like shrooms? This is crazy.
A player who is trying to make a character last minute, or don't know what dice their weapon uses, or don't know what skills they're proficient in, all of those things can slow down the game to a grinding halt. And definitely let the people that you play with for the very first time know this is your first game. The D&D community is actually very outreaching. They're happy to help and will guide you every step of the way. Show up to your first session with a willingness to learn and absorb and watch everything. And when you do play your first session, it really helps to go in with an open mind ready to learn. One good hint that I can give is watch some gameplay online. There are a few groups who do D&D really well. Critical Role, of course, is probably the most well-known, but their sessions go for 4 and 5 hours at a time, and if you don't have that kind of time, then try something like D&D with high school students, hosted by Bill Allen. He's a high school media teacher who brings in high school students that have never played Dungeons & Dragons before, and you can see what a learner goes through in their growing pains. You can learn from the students' missteps and actually watch the players grow as the campaign moves forward. So your homework before the next video is watch a few gameplay sessions, whether it be Critical Role, you can watch D&D with Robot Chicken, D&D with high school students, or even Acquisitions Incorporated as a good base to get started. Try to pick up on some of the gameplay terms that they use a lot, like checks.
Okie dokie then. So I am going to require the following checks. I'm going to need strength athletics from you, Egbert, and you're looking to beat a 15.
Okay. I have +4 for strength, so. And a 10.
Oh, Egbert.
Do I fall out of the tree?
You absolutely do, yeah.
Or initiative.
You roll initiative. Yes. Yes.
Oh,
Ben win. How'd you do, Ben?
10.
Jim?
13.
13. Omen?
17.
17. Viari?
18.
18. All right.
Or attack roll.
Those guys turn, all three of those guys, the two guys that are closest to you, Jenny, they turn. And they attack your horse. Miss. Hit.
Or roll for damage.
Yeah,
we'll say those
and
hits.
then, okay.
That's a really pretty nice. I know they're all.
8, 12, 13 damage.
Okay.
Or hit points.
Unfortunately not. You sort of peer around and get fire in your face.
What's that
Yeah, that's true. You take 8 points of fire damage, and that comes off your hit points.
This is a bad day for the steel man.
Becoming familiar with the language used during gameplay will help you a lot as we move through this series. So if you're excited to learn more, please subscribe and ring the bell. The next episode will cover the races in the Player's Handbook. I'll go into detail on what makes each race unique and what class each race may be best for. Then we'll move on to classes, we'll move on to backgrounds, and eventually we will roll up a brand new character. I hope you're as excited as I am to get started. Like, share, and subscribe if you are so bold. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you for the next video in D&D for absolute beginners. Take care.